It's crunch time in the 2025 Ginetta GT Academy Championship. We arrive at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit for, as I said, the penultimate round of the 2025 season. And we hope a suitably exciting set of races coming your way around what is a real driver's favourite circuit. A tough circuit on which to overtake sometimes, but over the years it has produced some top quality Ginetta racing. And I'm sure this weekend will be exactly the same. Andy McEwen here to talk you through all of the action, and action aplenty is what we're hoping to see. Points, as I said, now starting to become more and more relevant with every round. There are a total of just 6 races left in the championship, 3 here at Brands Hatch and 3 on the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit next time out. And it's very, very tight in the championship. Drop score conversations start to happen now as well. 4 dropped scores across the course of the 17 race season in the Ginetta GT Academy Championship has ensured that the point situation remained nice and tight. The grid then for our first race is as follows. It's James Nicholas who starts from pole position. Jamie Caudle, the championship leader, alongside him, but James Nicholas is his nearest title rival. Charlie Digby, 3rd in the points, 3rd on the grid, ahead of the rookie pole sitter Sam Shrimpton. Shiv Sapra and Simon Traves next on row number 3. Louis Darling and Peter Thompson share the 4th row of what is once again a very healthy grid here this weekend. Robin Grimwood and Damien Duffy then are at the back of the top 10. Row 5 shared by those two with Lucy Hodgson and Lexi Belt together on row number 6. Row 7 for Phil McGarty and Chris Babington, and the 8th and last row of the grid, Ben Cook and rookie runner Alan Wright. So 16 of these Ginetta GT Academy spec G56s, sort of the younger sibling, if you like, of the cars that we'll see out in the Ginetta GT Championship later on. They have 2 races this weekend, but it's a trio of races as always for the Academy. And I mentioned those championship standings. Well, Jamie Caudle, after what's been a very strong year so far for him, arrives here at Brands Hatch 5 times a race winner. He's had a total of 10 podiums from 11 races, so wonderfully consistent for him, and he is 16 points clear of James Nicholas. Behind them in the championship and behind them on the grid is Charlie Digby. Briefly there we were on board with the number 14 car as we rounded Westfield on the Grand Prix element of this Brands Hatch circuit, and Charlie will have a grandstand view of that front row from which starts Jamie Caudle. So Jamie Caudle, as I said, the championship leader, will be very keen not to allow James Nicholas to eat into that championship advantage this weekend. 18 points is not that, or 16 points, excuse me, is not that significant a margin as they drive over a lot of dust that's been laid down on the approach to Stirlings from a previous race here this afternoon. Track conditions therefore suboptimal, I think is what the drivers would describe them as we prepare for 20 minutes of racing. Also got an onboard camera there with James Nicholas. So the top 3 cars on the grid, we will be able to show you the driver's eye view over the course of the 20 minutes of racing to come. A 2x2 rolling start then. James Nicholas, the 99 car, white and blue from pole position. The turquoise and black number 51 of the championship leader, Jamie Caudle, alongside him. We've also got the rookie championship battle. We'll get onto that a little bit later on. Sam Shrimpton leading that category, starts on the outside of row 2, and he'll be hunting for an overall race win, I am sure. To the line we come then. The red lights will go out now, and we're away and racing at Brands Hatch, and it's a pretty orderly start as you'd expect from a 2x2 rolling start. Looks as though Nicholas will hold on to the early advantage, and in fact Charlie Digby moves up to challenge Jamie Caudle for 2nd place. Has Jamie got any grip on the outside line? Yes, he has. Shrimpton gets elbowed wide by a fast starting Shiv Sapra, who started from the 3rd row of the grid but is up to 4th as we approach Truitt, and then ushers Shrimpton right to the edge of the road and loses a place in the process. Off, I'm afraid, has gone Damien Duffy. That was Paddock Hill Bend, I believe, but the big beneficiary out of all of that was that potentially Charlie Digby coming back through into 3rd. I think it was Digby hadn't had a brilliant start, and then Louis Darling, in fact it was, I saw on the move, was briefly 4th, but Sapra back to the inside of him now as they turn through the left-hander at Surtees and out onto the Grand Prix loop. So Sam Shrimpton really losing out there. He's under threat again now from Simon Traves, who pulls alongside. That's the outside line though as he plunged down Pilgrim's Drop towards the right-hander at Hawthorns. Side by side ahead as well as Darling nips up the inside of Shiv Sapra. That is for 4th position, and I think that might just work. He's got the inside line for Westfield. Doesn't need it, he's cleared Sapra already, and Louis Darling with a demon start then from 7th on the grid read that situation quite nicely through the first sequence of corners and moves up 3 places from where he started. Through Sheen Curve then towards the banked left-hander at Stirlings, and so far so good for James Nicholas then. He retains the early advantage. There's that dust that we spoke about on the formation lap, really catching out Shiv Sapra, who in getting ahead of Sam Shrimpton, has taken the rookie class lead, and there's a red flag. The red flag is being thrown. Now, we know not exactly why. There is a car off at Paddock Hill Bend. Obviously, it's been decided that that requires a full race stoppage to be dealt with, as opposed to just a safety car. There is the car then in the gravel. It's not terribly far into the gravel trap, but the Damien Duffy driven car was being driven by Damien Duffy. Damien out of the race and requiring some assistance then to get back underway. So we will try that all again in a few minutes' time, but for now the cars line up on the grid, and we have our first red flag of the weekend. Didn't take us very long to get there, unfortunately. What did we learn in the 90 seconds or so of racing that we had? Well, we certainly learned that Shiv Sapra was on his toes and was willing to get his elbows out in the battle with Sam Shrimpton. Now, that's not hugely surprising, because I touched upon this rookie class championship battle that's going on. It's 30 points between the top two drivers in the rookie championship. Sam Shrimpton is the leader of that championship. Shiv Sapra is the man chasing him. So it's imperative, really, for Shiv, across all of these remaining 6 races this year, that he outscores Sam Shrimpton ideally in every single one of them. So that's why he was so punchy on that opening lap. He desperately didn't want to allow Shrimpton to sort of get away with the leading group. Shiv Sapra, though, has been every bit as quick as Shrimpton this year so far. Sam just maybe a tiny little bit more consistent. Sam did not have a great weekend last time out at Snetterton, scoring just 1 point across the 3 races, but he can use those 3 races as dropped scores. The lowest 4 scores for each driver across the year gets deleted essentially from their championship total. So if you had a cursory glance at the outright championship standings, they don't really bear any resemblance to what the standings look like with those drops applied. So there is Damien Duffy, his car back underway. And this, therefore, should be a brief red flag period, I suppose. I don't even think there's a huge amount of damage on that car, because he's attempting to drive it back to the pit lane. So he does a bit of rally crossing over the old rallycross course. He's trying, of course, to make sure that he shakes all of the gravel that gets everywhere within the wheel arches, within all of those little grille openings and aerodynamic elements of the front splitter, trying to drop as much of that as possible on the grass, except what he's doing is a little bit of gardening work and digging up a few much bigger rocks and throwing them out onto the racetrack. Obviously not intentional. Now, keep an eye on that blue and orange car there, mid-pack. That's Damien Duffy. At the front of the field, James Nicholas, as I said, retained the early lead. What happens to Duffy? Oh, he was given a bit of assistance, wasn't he, as they turned into the corner. Was that Lucy Hodgson, I think? Yes, it was, the green and orange number 44 car. It's 2 similarly liveried cars coming together on the apex at Paddock Hill Bend. There was a big jump round the outside from Lexi Belk in the white and orange car, and Damien Duffy tried to turn into the apex. There wasn't really anywhere that Lucy Hodgson could go there, and contact was made. So that's the reason for the stoppage. Ordinarily, I suppose, we would have seen an incident such as that dealt with simply with a safety car period, but obviously race control deciding that they wanted to pause things completely. We will have a restart over, it's now been confirmed, 17 minutes. So 17 minutes the restart duration. And of course, before we get to that point, they'll have to do another green flag lap and line themselves up again for a rolling start. Always an interesting dynamic, this, though, when you have a race stoppage, particularly early in the race, because we go back to the original grid order now. We hadn't completed 2 full laps of racing, so original grid positions are taken up by the drivers, which means that, OK, on the front part of the grid, not a lot changes. It is Caudle from, sorry, it's Nicholas from Caudle from Digby, but Sam Shrimpton gets another go now at starting from the outside of row 2. He is the Union flag liveried car. As I mentioned, after drop scores calculated, he is the rookie championship leader. And he has another opportunity now to try and keep the first of those red and black cars of Shiv Sapra behind him, something he wasn't quite able to do on the initial start to the race. They traded a little bit of paint coming out of Paddock Hill Bend. They almost traded more at Druids as Shiv drifted out wide. And it was that car there, centre of shot number 25, that really benefited from all of that. Louis Darling, who's a little bit out of position, I would argue. Louis Darling. Louis only 7th on the grid, still chasing a first win in the championship. He didn't finish the first 2 races of the season at Donington Park, had a non-finish last time out at Snetterton as well, but has shown front-running pace in most races. Has been in and around the podium battle. So if he can get another good launch through the first few corners, he might be a factor in this one as well. It's been that kind of championship over the years, Ginetta GT Academy, where you can make progress through the field. Naturally, because this is a series that largely deals with slightly less experienced drivers. The odd mistake is not unheard of. Now, is this a drama for Shiv Sapra? That is Sapra, isn't it, who has stopped on the Cooper Straight. So this is significant for a couple of reasons. First of all, most immediately, it might delay the restart because clearly we can't go racing with a car stranded in the middle of the side of the road. But also from a championship perspective. Now, what was Shiv dropping up to this point? Shiv Sapra has had 1, 2, 3 non-scores and a 1-pointer at Donington Park, so he's out of dropped scores. So this really is significant. This could be championship defining, actually. If Shiv Sapra is unable to take the restart, this will go down as a 4th non-score of the year, and he will, well, essentially have to count it. He'll count back the 1 point that he scored for a non-finish at Donington Park. If memory serves me right, that was a non-finish in a race in which he'd set the fastest lap in class, so got a bonus point for the fastest lap, but unfortunately that was the only point that he scored. So this will be a 1-point score for him, and Sam Shrimpton now has a golden opportunity from the outside of row 2. Not only does he not have to worry about Shiv Sapra on the restart, but actually if he can just survive the first few corners, a class victory is almost a nailed-on certainty, you would feel. So, at the moment, no notification of a delayed restart, and hopefully that means that either the car's fired back up again or the marshals have got it out of the way. See whether the safety car heads for the pit lane. There is the answer. So the car is being pushed out of the way as we speak, and despite the fact it's being pushed up quite a steep hill into the back entrance of the pit lane area, I suspect it will be out of the way by the time the cars get round to the start-finish area. So we should be good to go. We've lost 2 of them now, I'm afraid. And the race hasn't even really started, but fingers crossed that's the end of the attrition, and we can enjoy a good battle now between James Nicholas and Jamie Caudle, the 2 title contenders on the front row of the grid. Can Jamie Caudle do something differently? Well, we're going to have to wait a few minutes to find out, because the safety car has in the end stayed out, and we are indeed delaying the start. So an extra formation lap. Will the time start ticking down? Yes, it does start ticking down as they cross the line. So the race has restarted, technically. I did wonder whether the marshals, as strong as I'm sure they are, would be able to push that car up that hill. It may well need a recovery vehicle to assist with that. But the time starts ticking down, and so the race restarts, and what was already a shortened race is now effectively going to become a little bit shorter. So Jamie Caudle, as I said, 5 times a winner, but actually his record remarkably similar to that of James Nicholas, really. 5 wins for Caudle, 4 for Nicholas, a further 5 podiums for Caudle, actually a further 6 for James Nicholas. So James with about the same amount of appearances on the podium. The start of the season was really all Jamie Caudle, though. Jamie won 3 of the first 5 races, in fact 4 of the first 6 races of the season, and James Nicholas had to wait until the 4th race to get his first victory, which was a bit of a surprise, really, because I think he came into the season as many people's sort of pre-season favourite. He, remember, was the Palmer Sports Scholarship winner at the beginning of last season, 2024, and earned his position on the grid as a result of that, and was a bit of a revelation, really. Qualified on pole position for his very first race that season at Oulton Park, and was immediately a race winner. And from that point on, really, James Nicholas was an immediate championship contender. Over the course of the season, a few mistakes maybe crept in and cost him the championship last year, but with a season of racing under his belt, I think many people expected him to maybe have things a bit more his own way, but Jamie Caudle, the man we ride on board with, has made sure that that is not the case at all. And Jamie, this year, has proven to be slightly the more consistent of the 2. But it's that extra race win, really, effectively, which has made the bigger difference. You score 35 points for winning a race. There's bonus points for things like fastest lap, and indeed for pole position as well. But of course, that bonus point has gone the way of James Nicholas this weekend. He was fastest in this morning's qualifying session, and he would very much like to be in position number 1 at the end of this race, which finally, I think, is about to get going. We've got the safety car accelerating away from the pack with its lights now firmly extinguished, and we do roll 2 by 2 down towards Clearways Corner. We're going to have about 14 minutes left on the clock, I think, when the race resumes. And James Nicholas has to try and put all of this sort of delay to his pre-race programme to the back of his mind now. Try to get a launch off the line once again. Here we go then, to the timing line we come. And with just over 14 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock, the first race of the weekend gets back underway. And James Nicholas accelerates up towards Paddock Hill Bend. It's a similar start, I think, to last time. Caudle going with him slightly more this time around, though. Does he try and tough it out around the outside? Answer, no. I think he wants to just make sure he covers the inside line to prevent Charlie Digby from attacking. In fact, as they arrive at Druids, he is going to the outside. And Jamie Caudle with a much better restart this time. If he can hang on around the outside at Druids, that's the inside for Graham Hill Bend. But James Nicholas just about gets the inside line covered and retains the lead. Big dive up the inside from Shrimpton. That's third position now for Sam at the expense of Charlie Digby. And again, completely contrasting fortunes for him. It was a poor initial start to the race for Sam Shrimpton, but now he's really on the move. He's got Digby back to the inside at Surtees. The momentum is usually with the car on the outside, but he didn't have quite the grip that he needed on cold tyres, and they run door to door down the hill. It's almost side by side between the leaders as well. James Nicholas will have to defend. They're going 3 abreast behind. Sam Shrimpton wants no part in that and basically allows through Charlie Digby and maybe Louis Darling as well. Yes, Louis Darling right round the outside, and once again Louis Darling from 7th on the grid is the biggest mover on the opening lap of the race. He's into 4th place once more as they tip through the right-hander at Westfield and plunge down the dip through Dingle Dell. And that white and blue MDD prepared machine is looking really racy in the early stages of this one. In towards Stirling's they go. There is Louis Darling, in fact, looking now fairly ominous in the mirrors of Charlie Digby. That was very sensible driving, I thought, though, from Sam Shrimpton, because this is not really Shrimpton's race. I know he wants to try and win some races overall. He would love to be up there mixing it with the GTA class drivers, but his priority has to be wrapping up this rookie class championship. And with the demise of Shiv Sapra, which I'm sure he's more than aware of, because he will have noticed that Shiv was not there on the grid, he just needs to make sure he finishes this race. If he finishes the race, he's almost certain to win the class, because Shiv Sapra, of course, is out. So too is Damien Duffy. They were 2 of the other 3 rookie class drivers. So the only other one still going now is Alan Wright, who, by the way, has had a brilliant restart where he was right at the back of the grid. He was last on the grid and was 9th at the completion of the opening lap. So Alan Wright, with a really good restart, has picked his way through the order nicely, but is not on terms with Sam Shrimpton. That's the main thing. So Shrimpton, as long as he keeps his powder dry, should be able to pick up a much needed class victory. It would be his 4th class win of the year, but perhaps the most important of the lot. There goes Alan Wright, the sort of bronze coloured number 77 machine, just slightly detached from the lead pack. Sam Shrimpton, though, turns through Hawthorn, and well, for all of this talk of how he doesn't need to get too involved with the GTA class drivers, he does at this point look a little bit quicker than Louis Darling, who, remember, struggled in qualifying. And whilst he's been very confident on cold tyres, I wonder whether now maybe that slight lack of pace is starting to show up. Distances himself slightly from Shrimpton, to be fair, through some of the fast stuff out the back. There goes Alan Wright, 77 car through shot. Oh, and on the grass further back, is that Lexi Belk? It is. Somehow Lexi manages to keep the car in front of that of Lucy Hodgson, but with a lot of dirt on the tyres, the number 98 Ginetta doesn't really want to go around the next corner, and that stacks Lucy Hodgson back into Phil McGarty. So an entertaining 3-way tussle here, descending upon clearway. Shrimpton, meanwhile, on the attack, and goes for it up the inside of Louis Darling into Paddock Hill Bend. It's the typical Paddock Hill Bend overtake, and it's a successful one as well. Leans slightly on Louis Darling at the apex, but gets the move made. And as much as Louis would like to come back at him around the outside at Druids, I don't think that's going to pay off. Sam Shrimpton slithers over the curb, and well, I suppose a sideways Ginetta G56 is going to be a tougher Ginetta G56 to overtake, because it's filling more of the road, and Sam Shrimpton using that as a very good defensive tactic there. You can tell he's driving in the mirrors a little bit there, lots of movement down the straight as he tried to figure out whether he needed to cover that inside line, but in the end decided not to, and comes out of Surtees still ahead of Louis Darling. So Shrimpton up into 4th position, but that does not score him any more championship points. You score points within your class in this category, so a rookie driver could win the race or finish 2nd in the race outright. It doesn't matter. Oh, Phil McGarty's off. Phil McGarty with a loop coming out of Surtees. I don't think he's made the barriers, so should be able to get the car rolling. Looks like he was, but Phil McGarty drops out of the pack now, and will rejoin some way behind the rest of the field. So as the leaders turn through Stirling's for the 3rd time, 9.5 minutes or so left on the clock. This is what happened. Oh, that's an odd one, isn't it, for Phil McGarty? The angle that the car was at coming out of the corner suggests that was a bit of a tank slapper. I think it stepped out on him, he nearly caught it, and then it kind of went back round the other way. But either way, no major damage done. I expect that he's been able to continue. And I believe he is still going in the middle sector, so that's good news. Right, on board with Jamie Caudle. Ahead of us is his championship rival, not the championship leader, but his championship rival, James Nicholas. And there was 3/4 of a second between them at the end of the previous lap. James eking that margin out by a couple of tenths. Now, it's not a disaster, this, by any stretch of the imagination for Caudle, but James Nicholas, remember, picked up the bonus point for fastest lap in qualifying. And he will also be picking up the bonus point for the fastest lap in the race as well. So, at the moment, James Nicholas on for a perfect score of 37 points, which is 7 more than Jamie Caudle. It's easy to see, isn't it, how a 16-point lead can evaporate pretty quickly. That's nearly half of it gone if things finish as they are now, but there are still 8 minutes and a bit to go. Plenty of time for that to change. And actually, in the first half of this lap, I would argue that Caudle maybe is closing in slightly on Nicholas. Cars bounce over the curbs there through Westfield. A fantastic corner. And a real leap of faith as you then plunge down through the dip at Dingle Dell, and then again, a similar story up at Sheen Curve. In fact, that's more of a leap of faith. It's a completely blind, high-speed right-hander. And then the left-hander at Stirling's with all of that camber goading you into carrying too much speed through the turn. Jamie Caudle, though, is carrying just the right amount of speed at the moment. This has been a really good lap. He was 4 tenths quicker than James Nicholas in the middle sector alone. So Jamie Caudle latching right onto the tail of his championship rival. And we could be in for a real battle between the two of them now. He steals the fastest lap point away. That could be significant. So Jamie Caudle then with the fastest lap of the race now, 1:38.563 confirmed on the screen. It was actually a new fastest lap briefly for Nicholas, but then Caudle went 3 tenths quicker than him. So Jamie Caudle unlocking some pace now that he just didn't have in qualifying earlier on this morning. James Nicholas was 4 tenths quicker than him, which is a pretty sizable margin to have in a one-make category. But now in the race leader, I think, may be feeling the pressure slightly. It's inevitable, I suppose, that certainly for slightly less experienced drivers, when you're in the lead, you've got the championship leader behind you, you know the importance of trying to beat him. It's easy just to tighten up slightly, get a little bit nervous, start maybe overthinking things. I'm not saying that's what's happening for James Nicholas, but we do see it happen. Whereas Jamie Caudle, the hunter, can drive with a lot more freedom. He's really gapped Charlie Digby now in third as well, so it very much is a 2-horse race, this. The first sector, though, belongs to James Nicholas. He is consistently a tenth or two quicker than Caudle around the Indy circuit, basically. Sector 1 takes you from the timing line on the start-finish straight through Paddock Hill Bend, Druids, Graham Hill Bend, and ends on the approach to Surtees. So through those first 3 corners, that's where Nicholas is quick. And in fairness, he puts in a purple, so fastest of anybody, middle sector as well. So he's eked out about the 3 tenths, more or less the 3 tenths that he lost on the previous lap. What can Jamie Caudle do through the final corner? That's a deceptively difficult one as well. The car wants to understeer wide, and then it suddenly grips up in the compression on corner exit. And this gap that was only 4.5 tenths at the beginning of the lap goes out to 6.5 tenths with a new fastest lap now for James Nicholas. So James Nicholas gets that bonus point back. Sam Shrimpton, meanwhile, 4th position, lapping on the previous lap over a second quicker than Charlie Digby. So Charlie Digby, number 14, in 3rd place, running out of pace a little bit in the mid part of the race. And Sam Shrimpton, I think, sensing an opportunity maybe to get onto the overall podium, so to speak. I don't think he would actually get to stand on the podium physically, at least not the outright podium. I think there's a separate podium for each class, but notionally, he would be on the overall podium in the overall top 3. And that is a big achievement for a driver who, remember, still carries the novice cross, the black cross with the yellow background, meaning he's in his first season of racing. The winner of the Palmer Sports Scholarship in 2025, so the award that James Nicholas won last year, went the way of Sam Shrimpton this year, and he's had a really strong season as well. Down into Westfield corner they go then. Gap going out slightly, actually, as Charlie Digby starts to respond. This gap really has gone out, though. James Nicholas, talk about responding to the pressure. saw Jamie Caudle coming and said, oh no you don't, this is my race win for the taking. He's absolutely demolishing Caudle on this lap with a purple first and second sector. So in sector 1 he was the best part of 4/10 quicker than Caudle. Sector 2 another quarter of a second gained, and it looks like he's continued that sort of gain in sector 3 as well. So it's going to be another good lap list for Nicholas. I think he will move the goalposts as far as the fastest lap is concerned. Yes, first driver into the 1:37, so 37.977 is within half a tenth of a second of his pole position time. So James Nicholas 1.3 seconds to the good at the front of the field. Shrimpton, meanwhile, took another tenth or so, in fact only half a tenth or so out of Digby that time. 39.0 for Digby, 38.9 for Shrimpton, personal bests for both of them. That was a great shot of the little bit of opposite lock that was required coming out of Druids for that number 24 car as he stamped on the power. Rear-wheel drive cars, the Ginetta G56 of course, boasts, so Ginetta say, a perfectly balanced 50-50 weight distribution. V6 engine at the front, they run on Pirelli road tyres, so they don't give a huge amount of grip to the drivers. The Pirelli road tyre, I can assure you, is a very good tyre, but when you've got this amount of power to handle, they do slip and slide around a fair bit. And this sort of junior GT car, if you like, has proven to be a very popular first step on the racing ladder for plenty of drivers over recent years. Sam Shrimpton among the latest of those. Now this is a better lap. He was 3/10 quicker than Digby in the first sector. Second sector finishes just about here. Let's see, it's a 44.3 against a 44.2, so Shrimpton another 10th gained, and you can see he's pushing. Look, dips a wheel onto the grass coming out of Stirling's. He is not just settling for a rookie class win and a 4th place overall, is he? He wants to try and get onto the 3rd place outright. Across the line go the leaders then. Nicholas now 2.1 seconds clear of Caudle. I think it's fair to say that James Nicholas has the raw pace advantage this weekend. What about Digby to Shrimpton? It came down again by 2/10 or so. Ooh, and Charlie Digby very wide over the exit curve at Paddock Hill Bend. Now, I've made it 2/3, nearly 3/4 of the way through this first race of the weekend without mentioning the dreaded track limits, but Paddock Hill Bend is a common place for drivers to be pinged for exceeding track limits, as is this corner here, Graham Hill Bend. If you run too wide over that green painted area on corner exit, there are track limits sensors that will, well, funnily enough, sense when a car has exceeded track limits. They trigger a camera that sends a picture directly to race control, and there is then no arguing the case. You are quite literally caught red-handed for exceeding track limits, and we haven't yet seen anyone being pinged for that, but Charlie Digby certainly flirting with that, I think, out of Paddock Hill Bend. Battle here for 8th position, by the way. Robin Grimwood, number 50, one of the more distinctively liveried cars on the grid, has got Alan Wright for company. This is also for 2nd place in the Chairman's Cup as well, so a class within a class, the Chairman's Cup. And the class led by Peter Thompson at the moment in 7th position. He is only 1.5 seconds up the road. There, he just got a glimpse of him, actually, the red and black car. Got Robin Grimwood in 8th position. Ooh, doesn't really make friends with the apex there at Sheen Curve, and so Alan Wright, who I remind you started right at the back of the grid, which was initially 16th on the grid, sort of became 14th, I suppose, by the time we actually got the race properly underway, but still, he's up into 9th place now, so that's 5 places gained from there. And he wants to try and make that a 6th. He looks a little bit quicker right now, doesn't he, than Robin Grimwood, who's just making a couple of little mistakes. And as they head towards Paddock Hill Bend, there's maybe an opportunity. He's not quite close enough to lunge up the inside, but if he can force another mistake out of Grimwood, which he has, look, Grimwood again running wide of the apex, then there might be an opportunity into Druid's corner. Does he dive to the inside? Thinks about it, but Robin Grimwood has that covered. Slips wide again, though. Robin Grimwood doesn't have the confidence in the back of the car. Every time he turns into the corner, it looks like he's really fighting the rear end, and that is, I think, why he's missing a lot of apexes, because he just doesn't trust that the back of the car is going to stick. Correction, by the way, I think I said the red and black car on the road was Peter Thompson. It was not. That was, I think, a lapped car, Or in fact, no, I think Thompson's got ahead of Simon Traves, hasn't he? Yes, that's what's happened. So Simon Traves drops down to 7th place, Thompson up to 6th. This, meanwhile, is your race leader, James Nicholas. We're on the final lap of the race. Car 98, by the way, being given a 5-second penalty for exceeding track limits. That is Lexi Belk. Charlie Digby, I noticed, was being given the black and white warning flag, so he has been caught exceeding track limits, but no penalty heading his way just yet. There's certainly, though, no penalty heading the way of James Nicholas, and in fact, this is going to be a perfect score, a lights to flag victory from pole position with the fastest lap to boot. He will nearly halve the deficit to the championship leader in one race alone. A dominant performance for James Nicholas here at Brands Hatch. He wins the first race of the weekend for the Ginetta GT Academy, and in the end, after backing off significantly on the final lap, his winning margin only 1.7 seconds. Digby in the end got the better of Sam Shrimpton by about the same margin, actually. For third, Shrimpton, though, gets the rookie class win, and Simon Traves is back ahead of Peter Thompson. It's a shame we didn't see that last lap tussle, because that place, I think, changed hands twice on the final lap, and in doing so, it almost allowed Robin Grimwood and Alan Wright to close in. They finished in the same order they were when we last saw them, so Grimwood ahead of Wright. Lucy Hodgson, I think, should be next. Lexi Belk would be the next car. Lexi with that 5-second penalty. Yes, 5-second penalty to be applied for exceeding track limits. No such issues, though, for James Nicholas. As I said, a pretty dominant victory that. It looked in the middle part of the race as though he was going to face a challenge from Jamie Caudle. But as soon as he settled into a rhythm, about halfway through the race, he was able to pump in some really quick laps, including a fastest lap of the race that was only half a tenth or so away from his qualifying time, his pole position time from earlier on this morning, when the track conditions were a little bit cooler and I suspect quite a bit cleaner as well. There is the 55 machine. That's Chris Babington, who I think will be the last of the finishers. Yes, he will. So Phil McGarty actually wasn't last after his spin, ended up 13th by the time of the checkered flag. So let's take a look then, shall we, at the provisional results for race 1 of the weekend in the Ginetta GT Academy. James Nicholas, the race winner, and Jamie Caudle 1.7 seconds back, but the gap was nearly twice that big at one point. Charlie Digby was third, ahead of the rookie class winner Sam Shrimpton. A really important rookie class victory, that for Sam, with his nearest title rival Shiv Sapra not making the restart. Louis Darling was 5th, ahead of Simon Traves, who got the better of Peter Thompson at the end of the race. Then it was Alan Wright, Lucy Hodgson, and Lexi Belk with Ben Cook, Phil McGarty and Chris Babington, the last of the finishers. The first race of the weekend for the Ginetta GT Academy took a couple of attempts to get going. On attempt number 1, there was contact in the middle of the pack, and one car ended up getting punted out into the gravel trap. That was Damien Duffy. It was contact with Lucy Hodgson that sent him spinning into the gravel, and with the car requiring recovery, a quick decision was taken by race control to stop the race. And upon the restart, Shiv Sapra, well, his car simply coasted to a halt on the Cooper Straight. Major championship ramifications, that, in the rookie class championship. Finally, we got racing back underway, and Jamie Caudle actually had a much better restart than he'd had on the first attempt to start the race, almost going round the outside of James Nicholas at Druids, but James was able to hang on. It had been another fast start for Louis Darling. He was in 4th position briefly, but then Sam Shrimpton lunged to the inside of Paddock Hill Bend, and with some touchy-feely racing between the two of them, the position went the way of Shrimpton. Phil McGarty had a mid-race spin coming out of Surtees corner, but there were no such dramas for James Nicholas, who almost halved the deficit to championship leader Jamie Caudle with a dominant race victory from pole position.